What is going on, Chiefs Kingdom? Welcome back to another episode of The Kingdom Says. I am your host, as always, Garrett Williams. I am joined tonight by my two usual co-hosts. I got Mr. Kyle Henning on the top right of the screen. How are we doing tonight, Kyle?
I'm good, and I'm lying, but I'm good. Chiefs win.
Kyle. Yeah.
Victory Monday. Big episode for us personally. Episode 200 for us. Thank you for all of you who have been with us from the beginning. Thank you to all of the new folks. I've had a hell of a weekend that does not have anything to do with Chiefs football.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, other than that, it'll be nice to be in the distraction zone because that's what I need right now. Because if there's any more crazy, stupid stuff that happens, I might just pull my hair out of my head. So,
yeah, that's valid. That's valid. Also joining us, of course, Mr. Arrowhead Tom. How are we doing tonight, Tom?
Good. It's been the game was interesting and all that, but as Kyle mentioned, episode 200, which is a little wild to think about. Not a lot of podcasts make it to episode 200. Not a lot of podcasts make it to episode 2.
For those of us who worked at a network that used to open and run podcasts, we can tell you that is a fact.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yep. Yeah. I remember episode 100, and I was just thinking, Garrett, as you were introing us, we haven't had to stop and restart our intro in a while because we're really in the rhythm of things. We have, I think, collectively been a little bit better at staying focused. We haven't created as much editing jobs post-production with some of the comments and diatribes. It's been a journey, and maybe I'm just feeling sentimental, but thankful to be on it with you guys and that you put up with me in my quips and jokes and puns.
And incessant draft conversation.
Draft conversation. I have started. Nature is healing itself. I am in good defensive line class. I'm pretty pumped about it. So, yeah. But yeah, no, man. Good to be here. Excited for episode 200.
Yeah. It's definitely it's been a wild ride. 200 episodes of a podcast. A lot of time, commitment, energy, and dedication to want to do this thing. So. Echo my sentiments of Kyle and Tom. We appreciate everyone for joining us on this ride. About 4, almost 5 years strong, I think.
I don't even want to try to keep track at this point. I can't remember.
I know we started just before the 2020 Super Bowl, so I don't know how math works. So I think like 4 almost.
We're 4 working on 5, I think, is where we're at this point.
Yeah, so it's been a very fun time. It's been a fun time doing this thing and experiencing the golden age of the Chiefs and getting to talk about it every week, good or bad, because there have been, despite how tremendously spoiled we are as Chiefs fans, we still have our own problems and qualms with the team and issues and whatnot. And it can never be perfect, but we have had a rather enjoyable podcasting experience for the most part, I'd say, for these past few years. So definitely appreciate everyone for tuning in. 200 episodes, and we've got a lot more to go, I'd say, until this dynasty thing finally ends, I'd say. So we got some time on that one.
Until the wheels fall off.
Exactly. Yeah. As long as the Chiefs keep on giving us enjoyable football to watch, or even somewhat unenjoyable football to watch.
I was going to say, what are you talking about? Listen, I sat through. Years of Tyler Thigpen and Palco and Matt Castle, and you know what? My therapy bill got expensive in those days. I'm just doing the podcast, so even if you guys drop off, if we go back to the dark ages, I'll be here lamenting about Brody Croyle and those types of things.
I had Elvis Gerback as my first quarterback I remember playing for this team. So first jersey I ever had, all that noise. So it's been a while. It's been a minute.
So real quick on that note, if you're listening this far, 5 minutes in, obviously, hopefully you're following, you're subscribing. Do me a favor. This is what I want to hear. This is probably maybe an off-season discussion, but we'll get into this. What is the most obscure Chiefs jersey you have seen in the wild? And I want to be clear. I mean an actual player, not like a custom jersey, right? There's some funny ones. I've seen a gentleman who had, his bat, it said Pete and his number was 3. That was cool. But I'm talking actual player, like, whoa, somebody bought his jersey. I asked because I Uber drive on the side, and I picked somebody up the other day who was wearing a Daniel Sorensen jersey. And I went, is that a Daniel Sorensen jersey? Yeah, in the wild. In the wild. And
that was a hard jersey. I would rock a Daniel Sorensen jersey.
Yeah. So in the comments, let us know you're listening. Let us know what's the most obscure Chiefs player jersey you've seen. I also saw a Brody Croyle jersey within the last 2 weeks. I can't disclose who was wearing that, but they were wearing it with pride. So
I know you said no customs, but the wife does have a number 94 taco jersey. She wanted it to say taco. She didn't want the Charlton. Yeah. And I happen to own a Le'Veon Bell jersey for that reason because she has a taco jersey. So you guys can figure out why.
It's a pretty wild one to have a Le'Veon Bell jersey.
I have it.
Not a Blake Bell?
No, he was not on the roster at that point in time.
Okay, that's fair.
That's true.
I like
that was a good one. Yeah, yeah. That's a very wild thing.
I would have much rather had the Blake Bell as he's from my hometown, and
I was going to say
cooler than Le'Veon, but still a very obscure one. Kyle's probably got one of the most obscure ones. Yeah, that's
it doesn't go in the wild, and I don't wear it, but I own it. It's in the closet.
Maybe one time, maybe one time, break it out on a
maybe. Probably not, but maybe.
Okay, so we've got some Chiefs football to talk to you today about on this beautiful episode 200. The Chiefs are 13-1 going into this the rest of this season. Which if you would have asked us at the beginning of the year,
not according to my timeline. My timeline says they're 2-7, 2-14.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah,
wait,
exactly.
not 2012. Okay.
Not 2012. Yeah, 13-1. If you would have asked us before the season, would you take the Chiefs being 13-1 right now? We would have all said yes. No matter how pretty or unpretty it's been. We are here. We keep on stacking these W's, and it was no different. This is actually probably one of the better, better relatively, and more stress-free games that the Chiefs have had in quite some time. As they head out to Cleveland to take down the Browns. Travis Kelce making his reunion in Cleveland. Also, Kareem Hunt coming back home to Cleveland. That's pretty cool to see, and. Yeah, it was an interesting game. It was definitely a bit of a circus. On one side of the ball, just turnovers galore. Other side of the ball, kind of rip your hair out, frustrating. We see Tom already did that because it was just a very frustrating game on that side of the ball. So we're going to get into all of it. Before we do, quickly just want to remind you, if you aren't subscribed to our YouTube channel or subscribed over on Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you listen to your podcast to, be sure to drop a subscription, drop a like on the video, all that good stuff. Follow us at Kingdom Says Pod on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. That's where you can connect with all of us and get up to date on everything Kingdom Says. You can find some good tweets from us over on X. And it's just a good old time. We appreciate you being here. Fellas, which side of the ball do we want to talk about? I posed this question pre-show, but I might as well just air it out right here. Do we want to have an enjoyable time first? The good news, or we want to have the bad news first? Which one?
I don't. At this point, it doesn't matter.
I think we start. with the defense. Let's start on a positive note. Yeah. That way, if you want to get out of here before we bitch and moan, you can stop the episode when we start talking about the offense. About the third quarter of the offense.
Yeah, that's the one. So the defense, right? Going against the Jameis Winston Browns. Everybody knows Jameis Winston by now. Everybody knows Jameis Winston football. He is a gunslinger by the most extreme definition of the word. He puts up a lot of yards and makes some crazy throws, and he also
not against this defense.
Yeah, didn't do it against this week. Yeah, didn't do it.
Very
he
strange.
Didn't have the yards per se, but we know Jameis. He is very prone to giving the ball away, however that might happen. And the Chiefs definitely dominated on the defensive side of the ball.
Garrett, is a 3.6 QBR good?
I didn't even know it could get that low. If I'm being real, I didn't even know that was possible. That is pretty bad. Yeah, this is not like the Monday night Jameis we saw a couple weeks ago versus the
no
Broncos.
500 yards and 8 touchdowns,
even
if 4 of them were to the other team. Nope, none of those.
Yeah.
Just an overall stifling performance. First reactions, Kyle, I'll have you go first. First reaction to the defensive performance going against Jameis Winston and that Browns team with Nick Chubb and Jerry Jeudy, and they had a couple good players over there.
I mean, the defense for Shamari Connor going down when he got knocked out by Nick Chubb's knee, and that looked nasty. Hopefully Shamari's all right.
That's the first time that's happened to a guy trying to tackle Nick Chubb. I think a couple of
guys. That's a big violent dude, and
it's a big dude with some big quads and
he took that knee right to the side of the head, and as soon as he did, he was basically out when it hit, and I was like, oh, that's not good.
Nick Chubb is.
I would like to ask where on earth the carts are in Cleveland and why Shamari had to walk 3 miles to the freaking locker room with that wobbly of a
poverty franchise stuff.
Clearly, they have carts for the back in the tunnels where they took Patrick down the 7-mile walk to the X-ray room.
Guy out there, huh?
But I just. Did they run out of battery and halfway through in the game? I know that they're paying $230 million guaranteed dollars to a terrible human being, but who's not playing for them and has no ACL, and that's why we saw Jameis. But I would love to know why Shamari had to walk that whole distance and not be carted when he was clearly knocked out and then concussed. Not really great. Jameis had a Jameis day, but without the upside. Usually Jameis is a roller coaster. Usually it's he threw for checks notes 317 yards and 3 touchdowns. He also threw 4 interceptions, fumbled twice, and got sacked 8 times. That's usually what it looks like. That wasn't what it looked like. They beat him up. He got hit, he got sacked, and he kept throwing the ball to the team that he wasn't supposed to. Now, to give credit, Brian Cook made an insane play on the interception he made. He went way up the ladder to get it. I think knocked the wind out of himself / maybe hurt himself a little on that pick.
Yeah, probably.
Saw him not play much. So he had a decrease in snaps after that. I think maybe he banged himself up a little bit, so hopefully he's okay. Trent McDuffie got his
first career pick
and used the Jumbotron to do it. And then almost got decapitated during it, and somehow that wasn't a face mask.
Yeah.
They sacked him 5 times. They quadruple teamed Chris Jones on a play, and then Charles Omenihu smoked the other tackle off the edge and strip sacked Jameis Winston, who barely got back on the football. It was George Karlaftis had 2 sacks early.
Was hustling.
He was whooping one of the better left tackles in the league off the edge on a regular basis. It seemed like there for points.
Yeah.
Did they have their normal left tackle in? I thought there was some other.
I don't remember. I thought it was the right guy. Let me double check here.
I don't think it was Willis. I think it was a backup. But he still, some of it was hustle off the edge and.
No, they can't be Willis. Willis is on IR. But it was Effetti, I believe. At left tackle, and he kept handling. Well, no, that's not the right number. 78 was playing tackle for them on that side. Is that Jack Conklin? Yeah, it's Jack Conklin. At right tackle for them, and he was taking Jack Conklin to town there in the first half. Felix had a couple of good snaps. The pass rush was much improved in this game compared to everything we've seen all year.
I think the D-line might have heard the noise.
Well, I can assure you Charles Omenihu did, because he said so as much on social media and whatnot after the game.
Yeah, he's definitely one to hear the noise.
That's a big time deal. That somebody else winning when they throw 17 bodies at Chris Jones is important.
Yep.
And
I
don't care how you win. I don't care when you win. When you win matters a little, but you've got to beat them when you get one-on-one matchups, and we saw them do that in a way we hadn't seen this D-line do that most of the year. So that was important. Secondary played well. for stretches. We saw some changes at the cornerback position a little bit. Saw some more
they
Najee
did
Johnson on downs.
Najee in a little bit, yeah, and then because I think one of them got hurt, and I forget.
So I think Williams got hurt a little bit.
Yeah, I think Josh Williams got banged up. They brought Najee in, and then
when
Shamari
got knocked out, Chris Roland-Wallace played a lot more.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of good out of the secondary, obviously with 4 interceptions. That'll happen. Nick Bolton ended up with 1. He tried to give it back to Nick Chubb before he took it away from him again, but he did get it.
That was a circus catch of a.
It was wild. It was deflected. Then Bolton had his hands on it, but he almost put it back in Nick Chubb's pocket. And Nick Chubb had his hands on it. Then Bolton was like, "No, just kidding. Give me that back."
Like it was in position.
That's an improvement in and of itself, as he was where he was in fact supposed to be at that point in a pass coverage play. He had a sack where he timed his blitz up perfect and killed Jameis. Drew Tranquil was also free off the edge on that play. They both got there at kind of the same time. Like I said, they hit Jameis a lot, and he doesn't like getting hit that much, I don't think. Not really any quarterback does. And he took some shots. It led to some turnovers. There was, I think Nick forced a fumble too. I think he was the one that helped force a fumble that they actually recovered.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just an overall really good performance, except for that one draw play on 2nd and 30 where they gave up the touchdown. And I can't even complain too much on that because there was at least 2 clear holds on that play that went uncalled. But you can't give up a touchdown on 2nd and 25. So
I think that was right after Shamari went out, and I think Chris Rowland was just in a weird position, and he took a pretty bad angle to that ball.
And Najee had a little bit of an issue of giving up the wrong spot and leverage to the guy he was on that blocked him then later down the field. So there's a couple little things that was right after there was some movement around in the personnel. They immediately fixed it. It looked like going forward, but you can't give up a 62-yard draw play for a touchdown. That's tough.
Which is, I think, the longest run they've given up. It has to be the longest run they've given up all year.
And congrats
pretty
to
comfortably.
Jerome Ford for taking the new rushing title versus the Chiefs, because most of it was
7 for 84, but 1 for 62. So other than that, he had 22 yards.
Yeah, that is still the most yards the Chiefs have allowed to a back. So just, that'll happen sometimes.
But they destroyed Jameis, for the lack of a better way to put it. By the time the whole thing was said and done, Dorian Thompson-Robinson was playing quarterback, and he threw a pick to Jaden Hicks. So,
Jaden Hicks, congrats.
And that's who saw a lot of uptick in his snaps when the Cook little injury-ish type thing happened on his interception, and he played real well. So that's good news for this defense going forward. His continued growth and development, he's going to be a big part of this defense as they progress. He's one of those guys I thought we would see more of at the beginning of the year, but we really haven't, and I think it's mostly because Spags could wait, and now he can't wait because there's running out of defensive backs to use.
Yeah, running out.
So,
Steven Nelson, probably going to see him versus
it's a possibility, Garrett, because I don't know if Shamari's going to clear concussion protocol by Saturday.
Yeah.
So
I mean, hey, former team, that would be the one to do it against Texans. Yeah. Tom, initial impressions from that defensive performance?
Even I know we'll give the caveat of like, hey, Jameis wow. Let me try this again. Jameis Winston is the quarterback equivalent of Dan Sorensen. Think about it.
Yeah.
And I'm not wrong. I would say, I've said a couple times.
I didn't argue because I can't. I would have, but I can't.
Yeah. The last couple of weeks, the defense needs one of those games where they're just making plays, because it felt like they've made plays here and there, but it just felt like the splashes weren't there that they were used to, especially when, for the longest time when this offense struggled, there would be a defensive almost response, like a bounce back, a punch back, right? And this game, we'll get to the offensive struggles, but it really felt like they had that momentum. There wasn't that exhaustion that got them. They felt motivated. Some of the blitzes were getting home, which we've talked about a lot.
Huge.
Guys were winning their matchups. The coverage looked smoother than it's looked in a long time, and not just because Jameis Winston struggles the ways that he does. I think we saw a lot of competitive matchups downfield, and our guys were sticking with people and playing position. Jerry Jeudy has had a heck of a season.
Jerry Jeudy, I was going to mention him. Yeah,
he's given us problems before when he was in Denver, and they went to him 11 times, and they pretty well balled him up, which I think is important.
Main passing offense, pretty much their only passing offense. He caught 11 passes. They didn't even have, I mean, Elijah Moore, their other wide receiver, had 2 catches for -1 yards. Jerome Ford had 2 catches, and then there's Michael Woods and Jordan. So there was
Judy had 108, but he was it. Like they.
Yeah, they were force-feeding him that ball.
9.8 average. He had a long of 20. He had 14 targets, and largely when Trent saw him, he didn't have much of a day.
Yeah, so, Trent had a really good day on coverage on everybody. Basically, he was really locking folks down.
Yeah, well, I think the other part with the young guys, Josh Williams and Najee Johnson, a lot of talk about those 2 young guys this year, and not always the best. But they've also been put in some tough spots with some tough matchups. And this is maybe I'd say probably a below average receiver room, but the more realistic room, compared to some of the other things that they've faced this year. And it just feels like they held up a lot better, which is encouraging to see, right? They're not out here getting some really tough matchups. So, and again, they're young players, they're growing, they're developing.
Also recovering from injuries in a couple of instances.
Recovering from injuries, yeah.
Like not like he had a hangnail, like he had his ACL fall apart. Like there are some real injuries that a couple of those guys are recovering from. So
so I think it's important to kind of just give credit and say, hey, you know what? Like mentally, that get right game is important for them, and it feels like that defense kind of had that. So I was excited to see it. I love seeing more Jaden Hicks. Obviously, I don't want anybody to be hurt. I love Chamari Connor, so I'm not saying that, but I thought Jaden Hicks looked really good. I've been pretty jazzed about him since they drafted him.
That boy had ball skills when he made that return. I was like, whoa!
Oh yeah, he wanted to take it. He wanted to take it.
I thought he was going to. I thought we were going house call.
Yeah, he was trying. I think that's the one thing we didn't get was a pick 6. So
I'm surprised.
Jameis's prayers work. They delivered him from the pick 6s. They just forgot to deliver him from the rest of the interceptions he threw.
Gotta go back and talk it over the big man again. Just keep on eliminating one by one.
So I think the other part is again the defensive identity. We talk about that. Obviously, Chris Jones is the dude there, but we talked about somebody else being able to win one-on-ones, somebody else bringing energy. I just felt like Charles Omenihu brought that. I thought George having the game he had early on with his hustle and his effort with his 2 sacks was huge, but that also goes back to the coverage piece. So, I mean, again, this is what you want to see from this defense late in the year.
Yeah,
I think the confidence piece is huge. Obviously, getting healthier and getting some pieces in helps. Also, we'll see what the addition of Steven Nelson brings, but I think some fresh legs can be good. I haven't given up on the prayer circle. I'm hoping Jalen Watson gets back, but I mean it's a long season. Ups and downs, but it felt like our defense was finally our defense again, and they were enjoyable to watch. So I'll take that.
Yeah, definitely felt like they got their swagger back for sure, and got a lot of that confidence back that they've kind of been maybe lacking the past couple weeks, and just being out of rhythm, out of sync. And we've talked about it a lot, but it's with the injuries in the secondary, it's a lot of guys having to play different positions than what they might be used to. So it's not an instant process of figuring out and being right chemistry and getting on page with each other with the calls and all that different things. Communication, it's a big thing, and we really didn't see too many big lapses of communication in this game from the secondary and the defense, which was huge.
Lots of young guys. I think it was mentioned on the broadcast. This secondary's got a bunch of young guys. Oh wait, everybody but Justin Reed is a young guy. There isn't a single corner that's more than 3 years in the league, and there's one safety that is that. The whole room is 24 and under.
So it's not
that's
going
a
to be seamless out the
Mhm.
gate. There's going to be some growing pains.
a
But
lot to
as we've
ask
seen,
of a secondary room that is
exactly.
that
But
young.
as we've seen from Spags defenses, and Dave Merritt is one of the best DBs coaches in the league, and all this different things. It's like they figure it out. They put their guys in position late in the year, like Tom mentioned. But it's like they finally come around and get in their rhythm, and that's what's carried us to the past two Super Bowls. Really, has been the defense turning on at the right moment and taking over games in December and January.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Chris
Well,
Jones
and just
making.
like Andy,
Go ahead.
also just like Andy Reid on the offensive line, those young corners don't get a lot of help. You're out there and you're expected to man up and do it because Steve's going to bring the safety, the linebacker, the defensive end, and probably the puncher on a blitz. So you got to be out there covering your tail off, and it's hard. He's gonna challenge you to rise to that occasion, and play in coverage while he brings that pressure, from other pieces, than to start with helping you out and then hope that that coverage works, which I think is a very strength-based way to play.
They are, look, if I could maybe adjust one thing is maybe stop leaving the most valuable positions that you have when they're young guys on islands by themselves, but they do it with the tackles, they do it with the corners. It's what they do. Both sides of the ball. Tom just said it. However, what they do best is trial by fire, and they've made it a staple of this team. And a part of the reason that these guys eventually develop in a lot of areas, now we'll see how the tackles go, but at least in the cornerback room, have developed, and we've seen consistent development at that position time after time, guy after guy. I mean, you can go back. Charvarius Ward's making how much money in San Francisco?
Quite a lot.
L'Jarius Sneed is getting paid what by Tennessee?
Yeah, to not even play. Quite a lot.
Would you play with Will Levis doing what he's been doing the last six? Anyway.
I don't know if
he had a good hip or whatever.
It's gonna.
He has.
Coach, my knee hurts real bad, and fuck, that guy's terrible.
Yeah,
so,
no kidding.
It's sorry for you if you have children listening. Apologize for that one, but you'll be all right. One's not gonna hurt him.
Yeah.
So and they've done it time and again. You see it with, Trent was a high round draft pick, but Jalen Watson was not a high draft pick. I think he was a 7th rounder, wasn't he?
7th round, yeah.
And we miss you so much.
We've spent the entire year going, oh my God, we miss that dude so much. Like Josh Williams, 4th round draft pick, played well over the last 3 seasons in the roles he's been asked to play in. Largely, has some deficiencies. We know what they are. Don't ask him to do those things. And a lot of the time they don't until they don't have any other choice. And then they do. So, and Nazi, another young guy, out of position, 7th rounder, playing corner instead of safety where he was really at in college for a lot of it. He played a little corner in college.
Even
Chamari is a safety, and now they got him playing slot corner safety.
Yeah.
And
I don't even remember what round Chamari was.
4th, 3rd, 4th, 5th, something like that.
4th, I think. Yeah.
You've got a whole bunch of not premium pick talent.
Yeah.
Way outperforming their draft slot, which we can have a conversation about why that conversation's stupid a lot all the time. Anyway, after they're drafted, they're just football players. Kids don't really care where they came off the board at. But so that piece of it with that much youth and that much stuff, but them consistently developing it that way is why we don't complain about it too much. It's been weird this year because it felt like they were putting some guys in some positions that weren't the best for them, and you're trying to figure out why exactly we're doing that. But I think Sunday showed you some of the reasons that they've been doing that is like, hey, you may not be comfortable. Hey, you know how you learn to not be comfortable? By doing things you're uncomfortable with, and that's how you get better. Now, doing it in games that matter largely for very important things is tough in some instances. Especially
not always pretty. Yeah, it's not always a pretty
with today's day and age where you can get instant reaction from every Joe Blow and Schmo and comments, and people can attack you and your family, and everybody needs to be above. So it's a lot more difficult in the social media era than it was in past eras to do it that way. That's one of those old school meets new school philosophy type deals with this coaching staff that may be a little more old school. So the players have to be a little more old school and ignore the noise on the internet, which is not always easy for everybody to do. And usually after one or two times of giving in to the noise and the criticism, they figure out, oh, it's not worth that energy. It's not worth that time. The only people that care about that noise is the people on there, and the people that care about the other stuff are the people in the building. So worry about those.
Yeah. Unless you're Tyrann Mathieu.
And we've seen that. And that's
Tyrann Mathieu. He said, "I'm going all year."
Tyrann Mathieu is called the Honey Badger for a reason. You don't get there is no other Tyrann Mathieu. There is one Honey Badger. It's like a unicorn, except this one has teeth and fangs and yells things.
Tyrann said, "I want all the smoke. I'm good with it."
And that's fine. When you're
Tyrann, he was great.
But that's the thing is, Tyrann also has been that dude since he was
also earned it.
Freaking high school.
He's a dude. Yeah,
he's been that way since high school. He's from the boot. He's from Louisiana. He played at LSU. He wore the number at LSU. He was the dude at LSU. He had the nickname at LSU. Like, he is that dude.
Yeah.
So
he was the dude.
If you're gonna be that guy, you can be okay with being that guy, and not everybody can do that, and most actually can't, because again, he's one of one. So if you're gonna make your mold off of Tyrann, you better be as good as Tyrann, because that's the only way you can do that.
Yeah. But overall, this defensive unit, I feel like, has handled a lot of the pressure and the criticism pretty well, and the results are showing. The results are definitely showing. So a very impressive performance from the defense. We could go on and on about how good the defense played. It was really fun to watch.
I had a great time watching the defense
on the field every time. But there's, I think, just too many things to talk about on the offense that we need to move over to the offense side, or we'll be here for hours.
I don't want to.
Yeah, so it's, a couple things on the offensive side of the football. I almost feel like we should start with the end and the elephant in the room first. Just the most relevant information. Patrick Mahomes at the end of the fourth quarter. I forget when exactly, but he was out for the last drive or two, I believe, when the Chiefs were already up 21-7. But got rolled up on his ankle. The
7:57 mark of the fourth quarter. Well, 8:01 technically.
Patrick Mahomes gets rolled up on his ankle. Pretty brutal roll up. He gets basically a whole couple guys land on and roll up on his ankle. And meanwhile, he also gets hit up top at the same time. And it's just
he got high load. He got a helmet to the mouth. He got folded in half. And then he had a guy land his full body weight on him. Now, if I'm remembering the NFL rulebook correctly, like 2 or 3 of those are supposed to be penalties.
If not all 3 should be penalties, but no flag.
Those aren't the case.
Flag was called. So Mahomes did come out of the game. They quickly put some tape on the ankle. I don't know which ankle specifically it was, if it was the same one as last time.
They taped both of them. I don't know which one.
Yeah, they did tape both of them.
But the broadcast said, I think it was this.
I want to say it was
Can we hold on? Can we on the note of the broadcast? Anything that they said throughout that entire game has an 80% chance of being wrong, because Charles Davis is an absolute idiot.
Kind of a dummy.
First of all, Myles Garrett was wearing a visor the whole freaking game. He didn't just put it in after the eye poke. You know what poked him in the eye? The visor that got knocked out of his helmet. The reason that they saw them putting a visor in was because they were replacing the one that broke and poked him in the eye.
So
if you go back and replay the play before, he has a visor in. He didn't just magically take the visor out and then Joe Tooney poked him in the eye on accident. That's not what happened. So that was wrong. The ankle was probably wrong.
Probably Charles Davis had some. Couldn't
pronounce anyone's name correctly the entire fucking game.
There's one ridiculous one from Charles. Now we're on that subject, where it was I think Kareem Hunt run and Trey Smith came behind him and pushed him like over the first down, and then on the replay, Charles is like, "Well, the arm is almost around him. You can
you can't pull him,
which is illegal." It's like,
what the?
He's behind him. What are you talking about pulling? He is so clearly behind him. He's not even on the side of him. I
just wanted to clarify, like, if the broadcast
their rules.
I just wanted to make sure that if we don't take the broadcast with as much seriousness as you take every Mike Florio tweet in the history of the world with, which is none. Take it with zero seriousness at all, because that broadcast was wrong about nearly everything they said the entire game. So
yeah, it was pretty bad.
sorry,
But,
interrupting you, Tom, but
yeah.
I couldn't let that because I was like, well, they said 48 other things that were hilariously clearly wrong throughout that broadcast. So taking them to task on which ankle it was, I'm out on believing
exactly.
anything.
Can't believe that. But either way, they were taping up both ankles essentially, and he did not return to the game. Carson Wentz came in for the last 2 drives of the game, mostly as a precaution. The Chiefs Radio Network noted that Patrick was ready to go back in, but precautionary. You're up 2 scores, you don't really need to put him back in. You can put Carson in and be fine for the rest of the game. After the game, Coach Reed said that he could have came back into the game. They're going to run some tests on it, blah, blah, blah.
It's not broke.
Not broke, but sore was his quote, which is I almost didn't like that quote. I'm not going to lie, because the first severity being not broken is like, ugh, that's pretty severe. But
well, I mean, he did have 300-pound people roll on it in different directions while his body was folded 4 places.
That is very good that it wasn't broke. That is definitely good news. So, that is kind of the biggest kind of takeaway from the effects of the game from the offense. There's going to be a lot more tests and practice and whatnot. Coach Reed says day to day, we'll see what they do with him, his practice wise this week, if the rehab responds to it correctly and whatnot. Short week with the Texans coming up on Saturday. So that's the big news of the game.
Good luck, Bobby. Good luck, Julie Freimeyer. Get
to work.
Y'all knock your stuff out.
Yeah,
we wish y'all the best.
Get in that hyperbolic chamber or whatever you got to do,
Whatever it is that you do to make your ligaments sponsored by Gumby, do that.
And we know that Pat has handled this injury before. It was reported as a mild high ankle sprain or something like that, which we've seen multiple of. And
this is the first one that's been labeled mild. All the other ones have been like, I don't know if he's going to be able to walk.
That's true. Yeah. And no ankle sprain or high ankle sprain are the same. But
not at all.
Pat has a good track record of knowing how to rehab these things, knowing what to do, knowing his pain tolerances and how his ankle should feel when he has this type of thing. So we'll see. I'm definitely optimistic. Shouldn't be anything long term, obviously, but day to day, he is day to day.
There is no. He will be fine long term. Was one of the quotes
he'll be good
from one of the reporters that actually supposedly sourced information. We're not going to get into that, but I've already said enough about Mike's dumb self today on this show. I'm not going to give him any more airtime on any network. He doesn't need it.
Yeah, listen, this is episode 200. It's all positive vibes, except
all
for
positivity.
So I don't necessarily on the Patrick subject. I don't know that I would play him Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that it matters because there's only one person in Kansas City that besides Rick Burkholder that's going to tell him whether he can or cannot play on Saturday, and that's Andy Reid. There is no one else that is stopping him because no one else can.
If Pat is good to play, he's going to play.
If it's left up to Patrick, he will be on the field. You will have to drag him off the field, and we've seen
he's going to say all the right things. Oh, how's it feeling? Oh yeah, I'm feeling great. Feeling great.
Fine.
Telling Rick
he will lie to you forever and a day.
Yeah, he will.
He does not care. He is the level of competitive that unless they're cutting his ankle off, he's playing. And even then, he would probably still try to play on a peg leg. Like it.
Yeah.
That's just where we're at.
He is determined. He is a determined man. So we'll look more into that situation later in the week once we get a little more info on that, and we do like the Texans preview. But outside of the end of the game, it wasn't the prettiest offensive performance from the Chiefs. A pretty bad one, you might even say. A pretty horrible one. Some others might say. I don't know.
It was bad. No, I don't really think there's any way around it. Like it wasn't good.
It was not good.
It scares me to think about what this game would have looked like if the defense didn't force 6 turnovers.
Yeah,
6.
That's why.
Yeah.
They didn't do a whole lot. The opening drive was a 3-and-out. They got bailed out because the special teams forced a fumble and got a recovery. Yeah. They then proceeded to punt, get a pick, punt. And
it wasn't like Myles Garrett was wrecking the game.
No, because shout out to Joe Tooney. Balled out at left tackle against the reigning defensive player of the year,
Yeah.
And he had a hell of a day. He didn't give up any sacks. I think he only gave up like a pressure or two to Myles Garrett, which is
he had a really good
nuts.
day. And a guy who even had a better day was the guy who filled in at left guard for him, Mike Caliendo. I believe he was the highest graded Chief per PFF, which PFF,
highest graded O lineman and 5th highest graded Chief, I believe.
Okay, yeah. So
regardless, PFF sucks, but
but really good performance. Honestly, the whole offensive line.
I don't need PFF to tell me he had a decent day. I could look at that and tell, hey, there's nobody like blowing up the left half of that line, which is what's been happening for like 2 months. So that's a bonus.
We'll have to have a bigger conversation about that offensive line because it was a pretty good 5 that you had on the field there. Obviously, DJ Humphries missing.
Go ahead, Garrett. Fire it out. Fire your take out because you've already soft ran it with us in the group chat. So just
I mean, hey, listen. So here's the thing: DJ Humphries missed the game with the hamstring injury. Per reports, it seems like it's probably a little bit more precautionary. He'll probably be good to go next week. And I very fully much expect the Chiefs to roll with him, at least if he's good. Like I think that's a given. But
if
he is, an older tackle coming off a big injury, he still has some rust on him. The limited snaps that he had, the 3.5 quarters he had, weren't bad.
The first one wasn't good. Everything after that was fine.
Exactly. It's the first football he's played in almost a year. So, like, you really can't be too hard on him. And like I said, the Chiefs are going to give him more looks before the season's over.
Yeah.
But I will say that the 5-0 line that they had with Joe Thuney swinging out and if you give Joe Thuney a couple weeks of practicing at left tackle, I'm sure he looks even better than he did on just the 1 week of practice. Mm-hmm. And we know Mike Caliendo is good. He started in the Super Bowl and was largely fine. And he's a very, very commendable backup. He's very Nick Allegretti-esque, like he is very reliable to come in there and fill in at guard if you need be. But the way that this offensive line, these 5 performed, I mean, it might be the best 5 offensive linemen that the Chiefs have as a.
And I know there were stats out there that were like, well, they gave up 50% of pressures. First of all, I don't quite think that's accurate. Second of all, he got hit 14 times. That's what he's been getting hit for like the last month. So again, I don't really know.
And also, a big thing with the any kind of pressure numbers are the fact that they passed the ball basically 80% of the game. So it's very easy when you're third, fourth quarter and what's the offense going to do on this play? I wonder. Oh, they're running another pass. Let's just tee off on them. Pass. It's
so
that's so predictable.
That's a conversation we're going to get into. But
in a minute. So with the pressure rate, the other thing you have to factor into that is the number 1 pressure rate defense in the NFL is the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, they have very good.
I believe they are number 1 pressure rate wise at generating pressure in the league. So, and it makes sense with Myles Garrett on that defensive line. It does help, but it's for them to put up the performance they did for 2.5 quarters before the play calling decided to make their life nearly impossible. They played really well. And the 2 drives that I think highlighted that the most, I honestly kind of understand how the first part of the game started the way it did because you've got 2 new guys basically playing, or guys playing 2 new spots on that offensive line. It's going to be a little bit of a process. But once they got the process figured out, they went 14 for 87 in 7 minutes and scored a touchdown. And then went 8 for 50 and walked down the field. And then whatever the hell happened after they decided to not go for it on 4th down. And the field goal team decided to not actually go out there with their kicker to be able to execute the field goal after a timeout. They missed a field goal. So out of all of that, there were 2 really well done drives in that second quarter that were like, hey, that's workable. We can do that. And on those drives, they ran the ball. They ran some screens. Mm-hmm. They ran to Samaje, which seemed to be the most effective screen game they have right now.
Yeah.
He made some throws to the wide receiver group. Xavier Worthy had some catches. Had a really good nice day. Like there was a functioning offense in there. And then whatever else happened in the third quarter, and we can get into that. But the offensive line, and especially Joe Thuney, being asked to play a position he hasn't played, I think Andy said, since college, at a position that's hard to play for anyone, especially a guy with some shorter arms like Joe has against one of the
not the most ideal tackle build. Yeah.
Against one of the best defensive ends the game has seen in many years. Because let's not get it twisted. Myles Garrett is a once or twice in a generation player. And I say once or twice because TJ Watt exists. Otherwise, I'd say once in a generation.
Yeah.
Like, it's real hard to do that. And he went out and hammered out a day. Battled, did not lose instantly, which is it's the die a slow death.
He actually dies slowly. It's so nice to see.
So
it's crazy.
It was quite, and you could also tell it took Patrick a little bit to be like, oh wait, there's time and space, and I'm not getting the pocket folded in on me immediately. What is this?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was a good performance. It was a good showing. I liked a lot what I saw from the unit.
So if they have to, I agree with Garrett. I think that's your 5 if DJ Humphries, for whatever reason, at any point can't go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think I don't think that's a crazy thought. And once again, hope DJ is good. Hope DJ ends up being okay.
Because I think they're better with DJ. Honestly,
probably very, very much likely if he's.
I know it's a very small sample size, but I do think they will eventually, long run, be better with DJ than having to force Joe Thuney to play out of position in that area.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Tom.
I was going to say, they having DJ available at left tackle gives them some other options for if the play at the other tackle spot isn't up to par. And I'll leave that statement at that.
Yeah, or injury or something, knock on wood. Yeah.
Which I got to say, for people that haven't gotten credit when the credit is due, he didn't have any issues on Sunday.
No, yeah, Jawan Taylor. And I was worried
penalties,
about it. I was really worried about it because that first, that Browns drive, there was like 2 illegal formation penalties on the same drive.
It was weird. They called the other team and not him.
Yeah, I was like, oh no, they're going to kill Jawan today. And they didn't. It was actually a pretty clean game.
The only pre-snap penalty, I think, was on Trey Smith.
I think
that was a weird.
Yeah.
And I'm still not sure that was the right call, but that's beside the point.
Yeah, so like we kind of alluded to, really good performance. It just becomes very predictable once you're passing the ball every single down. And we saw a record number of punts from the Chiefs in the Mahomes era. I believe the record before was 7 punts in a game, in a Mahomes era game. And there was 9 this game. There was 9, including, I think, either 3 or 4 3-and-outs, like just straight up 3-and-outs. I think 2 of them didn't even gain a single yard on any of the plays. And yeah, it was just a very interesting play call from every angle that you could possibly look at it. It's just very like the running screen and then a pass and then another pass and just refusing to run the ball that whole third quarter, basically.
They had 6 3-and-outs in this game.
Okay, that's even higher the number that I then
3 in the first half, 3 in the second half. 6 3-and-outs.
Yeah, so
that does not happen with this offense.
Yeah,
they do not do that.
That's not good at all.
And it felt like there was not this moment, and this is where it's like those conversations on the sidelines between the coaches. This is something that Andy struggled with when he was in Philadelphia. This is a tendency that he has battled his career where he gets away from the run, and he substitutes that by these little short dink and dunk, like cute passes on first and second down.
Yeah.
They didn't even do that on a couple of those drives.
But yeah, that was one of my thoughts is he would do that, but then he'd get behind the sticks and then he panics and then he won't run the ball. It's second down and he won't run the ball. Run the ball on second down. You can run the ball on second down.
Well, but then he gets yelled at when he runs the ball on 2nd and 10 because everybody loses their mind when he runs a draw play on 2nd and 10.
You have to take a drink every time that happens.
You don't even have to run a draw play. You can just run the ball.
To Garrett's point, they did have 3 3-and-outs that were 0-yard 3-and-outs. 3 of them. Yeah. 2 of them in the second half on damn near back-to-back drives. Not quite, but close. It was sandwiched in between a 6-play 10-yard drive that there were 2 3-and-outs with 0 yards. And on those 3 drives, there was, I believe, 2 running plays.
Woo!
Wow. Ooh.
It's almost 1 per drive.
Sorry, I take that back. There were 3 running plays.
There we go. There's a
2-on-1 drive. That'd be crazy.
Yeah. And I understand some of it. Like his thinking is, okay, we're going to be creative. We're going to establish this rhythm. But then they don't get that rhythm and they don't get going and they're behind the sticks. And then even when they do kind of get those rhythms, they still struggle with short yardage stuff. It's just been a weird year for that for that short game for the offense. And we've already talked about how they're out of sync on the long game. I think the other part is Andy kept getting the turnovers, and then they're trying to do these, kind of long developing plays and these pass plays.
Well, you're trying to take a shot because you're trying to make a team pay for turning the ball over, which I get that.
Yes, which is great. But, like, if you've got house money, yes, like, go ahead and take your shot. But if you keep getting house money and that shot, like, at some point you could take a safe bet.
Keep throwing it away.
And maximize your profit.
Right, because you were up 21-0 on one of the first 3 and outs with 0 yards. Then you were up 21-0 on the 6-play 10-yard out punt. Then you're up 21-7 because you gave up a 62-yard draw play on 2nd and 23 after a sack. And you get another 3 and out of 0 yards and 25 seconds. Like, that's tough on your defense. That's carried you for most of the game. Don't
not
do
much
that.
Of a breather for them. Yeah, not much. We talked about the other thing where the defense was given very quick things, and the offense had to be out there very frequently. Now it's the same exact thing on the flip side,
So I think, like, and the other part is, at one point Patrick was 3 of 13 with 8 consecutive incompletions in the third quarter, and 5 of them it felt like were drops. So maybe, just maybe, and again, Andy knows more about football than I will ever forget. Or he will forget more about football than I will ever know is the technical phrase I've tried to say correctly.
You nailed
butchering.
You nailed it.
But when you are playing in a crappy condition rain fest with your left guard playing left tackle and a backup in at left guard, and your wide receivers are having trouble holding on to the ball, and your quarterback has looked a little off most of the game anyway, even when they're not dropping it, maybe run the ball more than 4 times in an entire quarter when you had 5 drives in that quarter. Like, again, Garrett mentioned it. It's a habit he's had for 30 years. So I know we're just yelling at a wall at this point, but it's a problem that's been an Andy problem forever. And here's the main thing I want to highlight. It's been a problem forever, no matter who the offensive coordinator is. And you guys hated Eric Bieniemy when he was here, and it was all his fault when it didn't work. And you hated Doug Peterson when he was here and in offense and it didn't work. And you hated Matt Nagy the first time when he was here when it didn't work. And you hate Matt Nagy now. And Eric Bieniemy's going to come back from leading UCLA to the 250th best offense in the country in college and fix everything magically. You hate the offensive coordinator every time. It's been Andy. It will always be Andy. Andy has told you how much percentage of the vote does Andy Reid have in this and say in Kansas City? 51%. So 51% is going to trump anybody and everybody else's opinions and thoughts and play decisions and whatever. And if you think that's wrong and you think that they're lying, whoever says that is lying, then you're calling Andy Reid a liar because he's said it.
Mm-hmm. That's valid. Yeah, it's very valid. This is the thing. And, especially with the philosophy and how the game was going, like we said, like they were up 21-0 doing this. Like
that's the part.
These are the moments where, like, you don't have to be. I mean, obviously, I understand that they probably want to prove a point and want to have put up a lot of offensive production and take those deep shots and whatnot. But like at the same time, you gotta drain some clock, man. You gotta like the amount of drives and possessions we have is just not healthy. It's just not a way to sustain a game. And obviously, when you have your defense playing the way it is, you can get away with it. But it's like you shouldn't be relying on that. Like, just make it easier on them. Just have some extended drives. Run the ball a little bit. Try to get a little more time off the clock. Because that's the other thing. It's like there was so many possessions for the Browns to potentially come back in the third and fourth quarter. Obviously, they didn't. But, we just saw like on Sunday Night Football it wasn't Sunday Night Football, but the Eagles and Steelers. The Eagles got the ball back the last drive with 10 minutes in the fourth quarter. And the Steelers never got the ball back.
Never touched it. The Eagles ran the entire clock out.
Yeah, it's like, just do even a little bit of that. I get that we're not a run-first heavy team, but
you did it last week.
Yeah,
how many drives did we have? How many drives did each team have in the Charger game last week? Because we talked about this on this show last week. Yeah. Each team had 3 drives last week. 3.
Yeah.
Total, apiece. 6 total drives for the entire second half by both teams. Anybody want to take a guess at how many drives there were this week in that second half?
Too many, at least 12, I'd say. 10, 12, 6, 8.
So your combined
You got all
drive
the even numbers,
total.
Tom. You get the odd numbers.
Your combined drive total 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and the 16th drive ended the game.
Jeez Louise. Yeah.
Now, part of that is because the Browns vomited the ball up like they were sick in at their house with a stomach virus.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
there were 16 drives in that second half, and they didn't need to be because there were let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 drives took less than a minute, and a 7th took a minute and 12 seconds, and that was the one to end the game.
Yeah, like that's just horrible.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that is just crazy. That is crazy. I don't even know how you can do that.
And like I said, some of those are because the Browns, 1 play, 7 yards, 17 seconds, fumble. 1 play, 0 yards, 14 seconds, pick. The Chiefs, 3 plays, 26 seconds, 0 yards. 3 plays, 21 seconds, 0 yards. That's bad.
That's bad, yeah.
3 plays, 0 yards, 56 seconds. Chiefs. Like, that is 3 drives under a minute that gained no yards in the second half.
Nothing to show for it. Might as well have just not even gone out there.
Cannot happen. And then you don't go for it at the end of the half, and you end up missing the field goal. So you go in the second half, and you get to 3rd and 3 at the 11 or the 39-yard line, and instead of running the ball, you take a shot to Noah Gray, and then you run another pass play, and Patrick gets folded up, hit in the mouth, landed on, and hurt. When you needed 3 yards and you were going for it at the 39. Run the ball.
Just run the ball. Yeah.
I know they didn't have a good day. Both had 13 carries. One averaged 3.6. The other one averaged 2.6. It wasn't great, but do you know what averaging 3.6 and 2.6 does on 2 plays where you need 3 yards? It gets you a first down.
It gets you a first down, yeah. And at least if you get stopped, then
and it doesn't get your quarterback hurt, and it keeps the clock running instead of throwing the ball twice and giving it back to them anyway.
Yeah. The amount of quarterback hits on Patrick that game, even though there was no sacks, like the amount of times that he gets hit, it's just too many.
There are 12-year-olds in Madden that understand clock management better than most NFL coaches.
Yeah.
And it blows my mind that we do this over and over and over. And it's not just Andy and co. We see it all the time, but he has a nasty habit of just abandoning the run for quarters and halves on end.
It's like he was playing, against Isaiah Pacheco in fantasy or something. It's wild because it's like, again, with Pacheco, I want to see him get in rhythm and have a game where it's like, he's coming back still, and maybe you're trying to, concern, but he's got fresh legs. His legs are gonna be as fresh as they are. You got to get him, you got to iron out some of that, let him get some of that confidence, that momentum. But it's just like that's
a big thing.
It's maddening.
Well, and you want to save Pacheco. Okay, so both of them had 13 carries. Can anybody tell me how many carries Kareem Hunt had before Isaiah Pacheco was back on average?
Like 30 on average.
He was averaging 24 carries a game. So now he can't have more than 14?
Yeah. And running backs always talk about it too. Like if you hear running backs talk, it's like if you're only getting 1 or 2 runs like a drive and like you're switching in and out, like you can't get into any kind of flow,
And you're taking a guy who was in Cleveland, who is from Cleveland, who has as much motivation as possible to try to finish a game for you, and you don't even let him try.
Don't even let him try. Yeah.
Let him have the ball. When he got going earlier in the game, he was ripping off 7 and 8 yard runs.
Oh yeah.
And then he had one where he got 3, and he had one where you have 1, and that's going to happen. But when you're trying to close out a football game, and you have a huge lead, and you have a quarterback that has been hit more than any quarterback in the league this year by a mile, and a quarterback who's been hit any more than any quarterback in the league in the last 4 games by 6. because I saw the stat today. I don't remember which ESPN or Fox or whatever it was, but like the last 4 games, Mahomes has been hit 35 times. Second place, Joe Burrow, 29. Like that's a 6-hit difference.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
Run
like,
the ball
not,
with the
not
guy
the
you brought back that wants to prove that it was a good reason to bring him back when he's playing in a city where he's from, where he used to play, and they told him they didn't need him anymore this season.
Yeah, talk about extra motivation to get out there and run dudes over. Yeah. So yeah, that is the main story from the offense, not running the ball, squandering opportunities the defense gives you. It wasn't all negative though. We should highlight a couple. Yeah, there was a lot of drops. Yeah, and
bad weather.
Bad weather. Yeah, it was raining for
it was
like I think the whole second half.
Raining at points in that game.
It was coming down pretty hard.
Not great weather.
So it's not like the most ideal. There was also like I think it was pretty wind, like 15-mile-per-hour winds or something I saw as well. So it's obviously that's the AFC North football, baby. I mean, that is Cleveland for you. But just not the easiest. I mean, that's even more of a reason why you maybe run the ball a little bit more. I don't know, kind of a crazy thought. But we should highlight the couple great moments that the offense did have. 3 touchdowns on the day.
Stuff.
Yeah, 3 touchdowns on the day. You know, first one to Juju. That was the only Juju appearance we saw basically all day. Was that 7-yard catch?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, pretty much. He only got.
And he made
catch.
a hell of an effort to get to the pylon too.
Yeah, it was great. The big old. I mean, Juju looks like a tight end out there. I know we've talked about it many times, but bro is just.
When did he get so big? Is what I want to know.
Whatever
he did not used to be that big.
That's where he's only listed at like 6'1", 215. Like he looks like he's 6'3", 240. It's crazy. Yeah.
Like legitimately, y'all remember a couple years ago when he was here the first time for the Patriots? He looked that big.
Yeah, no, it's. I
Those
don't
cakes
know, but Juju's been hitting the gym or something.
He needs to not go the Kelvin Benjamin route. That's all I'm gonna say.
Don't
do that.
Yeah, as long as he keeps on hitting the weights and not the Big Macs, it'll be good.
Jesus.
But yeah, Noah Gray had a touchdown in the back of the end zone on a pretty easy play.
Yeah, because Myles Garrett's visor poked him in the face, and then he
rushed
the rest of the play. Joe was like, "The hell happened?"
Decapitated him or something.
What do I do?
Joe was literally frozen in place because he had no idea what just happened. Yeah. So that was kind of an interesting one. And then Xavier Worthy's rushing touchdown that, like we said earlier, really should be a passing touchdown. That'll matter for some people's fantasy points. But
I guess I will say I did see an over-the-top slow-mo that we didn't get a broadcast look at, and it technically, I think, was even. Maybe it was maybe it was a quarter of a yard backwards. I don't know how you.
Well, I saw someone too who said like if he would have dropped that pass, they will almost certainly would have called it an incompletion. They will almost certainly would have. But
I'm near positive. But yeah, the official scorers ruled it a lateral. The refs on the field would have definitely ruled that incomplete, and then there would have been a whole controversy about how that was rigged for us. So.
Well, yeah, but he ended up getting a rushing touch. He actually had 3 carries on the day for 30 yards. They used him a couple times on those end arounds. I think they even gave him
he could avoid getting tackled by his shoelaces, he would
have
had like 200 yards.
Every time he gets tackled, he needs to. He's a great runner, but he needs to implement a little bit of a mind.
I'll tell you this: he stiff-armed somebody into the dirt. I don't remember who it was, but he dropped somebody with a stiff arm. I was like,
29
good Lord.
Yeah.
To his credit, Juan Thornhill tackles people by his shoelaces better than anybody I've ever seen.
That is true.
Pulling shoelaces like he's a tooth fairy.
With that, though, also a note: Xavier Worthy, per Matt McMullen, was now just the 5th wide receiver in NFL history to have 3 rushing touchdowns and 3 receiving touchdowns as a rookie. So that's kind of cool.
He's been really good, and if there were a couple of more normal connections that normally take place, he has like a near 1,000-yard receiving season as a rookie.
Oh yeah, there's a many alternate dimensions. I think Seth Kaiser tweeted us out. Yeah. Like 80% of the alternate dimensions, he's a 1,000-yard receiver. So this year.
That goes for even like we talked about earlier, the deep ball that Mahomes decided to throw to Justin Watson in double coverage.
Right.
If he just gets the first down to Worthy, he might have scored because he was in man coverage with a dude trailing him, and I don't know that homie was catching him.
I don't think so. Yeah.
Xavier turns the corner, and there's no one on that half of the field. He gets at least 30 or 40 more yards.
Yeah, just one of those things that once again they talk about. They just really wanted to kind of force that deep ball and
it hasn't been pretty.
Again.
That's been
also on that deep ball to D-Hop that he ended up dropping. Travis Kelce
I
was
thought
also
he
wide
caught
open in
it.
the middle of the field, so that was another one where he's like,
I
let's
thought
take a shot.
D-Hop caught that, and
I
as
thought
soon as
too, yeah, I thought that
and
was
even
really
after
sick.
it popped up, I thought he caught it.
Yeah, that was a really. I mean, that's the person you want to throw a jump ball to deep like that, like because
Which he
the
did, and
awareness
it was
he
in a
has to
perfect
kind of.
spot.
Yeah, he like kind of snuck away from the defender, came back to it, and got it.
He literally basically caught that on the back of the defender's legs, and the ball hits a little bit of the ground and pops up. Where if he just holds on, like I thought he caught it.
I thought as well. So yeah, ultimately, some highs, a lot of lows, a lot of things to work on going forward for the offense. Ultimately, though, I feel like they have a pretty good grip on what should work and what can work. They might just still be in a little bit of experimental phase of, we know Andy likes to throw some funny things on tape and show some different looks and whatnot. Who knows? We'll see. Hopefully, come January, the play calling, they kind of really realize what works and what doesn't, and no more of this experimental silliness that they have on offense. And
no more bad tendencies. That's what I really want. I don't even care about the experimental stuff. No more bad tendencies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, whether that's the play caller or the quarterback, no more bad tendencies.
Just like we talked about the defense needing the splash plays, now the offense needs some consistency. And
Yep. Yeah. So that was basically it. Anything? I think
we did get some news today. I do want to take a minute and say thank you to Clyde Edwards-Helaire for the effort, the work, the battle, the tough, and the absolute locker room guy he was by every account we've ever heard or seen about the man. Took a lot of crap and a lot of heat from a lot of things in this fan base over different times throughout his time here. Never blinked, never did anything. The strength he showed this last year with being able and willing to come out and share his story and talk about the stuff that he was willing to talk about and discuss is extremely important for everybody to hear, but especially men to hear. There's a real issue with men's mental health in this country. And his willingness to be vulnerable and share his story and everything he's dealt with since the day he had to decide to save his friend's life and take every step and everything he's went through, all the physical pain, all the other stuff he's dealt with on the field, everything. I have a lot of respect and a lot of love for that man. I appreciate all of the stuff he did while he was here. He's a major contributor to multiple Super Bowls. And I wanted to take a minute and say thank you and highlight that. I also thought it was an absolutely A-plus class move by the Kansas City Chiefs to let him tell Kansas City goodbye and essentially let him announce his release today. I've also seen some thought processes from a couple of folks. Lyle Graverson, I believe, is one who put out that they may have signed him this year and let him be on the active roster to get him an accrued season so that he had 5 years of service in the league to be able to get the pension and benefits and the health care that the league provides for those players. So if that's the case, that's another one of those things that makes this organization an A-plus class unit where it tells you they care about their players just more than just players, but they care about them as people as well. And that's important too when you go to talk about the history of this franchise and the statements about this dynasty. So that's all I got on it.
Shout out Clyde. Best of luck to him in the future. Super bright young kid, obviously great teammate. Everybody said nothing but positive. I mean, Travis Kelce has said ad nauseum how much of a great person Clyde is. So he's got a really bright future. He wants to be a nurse one day. So that's really cool. He has the things to do that. So
I think, and this is a totally me thing, I think he could do a lot of good by just going around and public speaking and talking about
that too.
His story and his struggles and his battles and how he's handled it all and how they've done it all. And I think that would be nurse is cool. I think like I said earlier, I think there's a severe issue with men's mental health in this country, and seeing someone like him who's willing to go out and share that platform and do those things, I think would be a big help to a lot of folks. I know it was that podcast shout out to the Pivot and Ryan Clark and those guys for doing that with him. But that episode, that podcast, that there was a lot in there that hit home real hard with me at points. And if you haven't listened to it, it's worth every second to go check it out.
Yeah.
I mean, we could do another hour on mental health and all that. You guys know that's a lot of my wheelhouse. Also, there's a lot of stigma for everybody, but especially for men, especially for men of color. And certain communities, and for Clyde to be as open and honest about what he went through, and people are like, oh well, hey man, just get over it, suck it up, whatever. What we've learned about trauma in the past 2 decades, 3 decades, is that it does have a physical effect on your brain, and so it's not as simple as just get it over it, right? There's a reason why we've learned these things. The situations he described, are related a lot to gun violence, and again, it's not a political statement. It's just those were his words, and that is traumatic. And
you see it with all forms of gun violence, whether that's the street version, or whether that's law enforcement, or whether that's military, or whatever the situation may be. It's not specific to one thing. It's the trauma responses to those actions, those life-altering, life-changing, and pretty much every one of those is in some form or fashion life-altering and life-changing for at least one party. It's very different.
Yeah. So shout out Clyde, Chiefs legend, Super Bowl, 2-time Super Bowl champion, and bright future ahead for him. Bright future ahead. His release clears the way for Hollywood Brown to be back on the active roster, more than likely, is kind of the belief, which is kind of crazy that we even are going to see Hollywood Brown in a Chiefs uniform this season, but it seems pretty likely that's going to happen, whether it's this week versus the Texans or Christmas. But yeah, it's a good time in the kingdom. Obviously, a lot of uncertainty still going forward with Patrick Mahomes and all that stuff, all the other injury things that we have. It's gonna be an interesting week, Chiefs Kingdom. We appreciate you tuning in and rocking with us for this episode 200. Once again, big shout out to everyone for following along with this journey, and only bigger things to come. We've got a lot of good plans. We've got a lot of fun things on the horizons. Maybe stay on the lookout for a giveaway on Twitter this coming week.
We got some different stuff going on.
Yeah, so we'll see what's popping. But we also have maybe a couple other fun things in store, some really exciting things. So yeah, let's just keep on rocking. We got only 3 weeks left of the regular season, which is crazy. We waited so long, and now the regular season's basically over, and then the real season starts, which is the playoffs, and that's what it really matters.
But it's nice to say.
Yep. So with that, that's all we've got for you tonight. We will be back later this week with the Texans preview episode and whatever else news that might be relevant for the Chiefs, and hopefully we get some positive updates from Patrick Mahomes. Otherwise, we might see the old Ginger Jesus out there on Saturday facing the Texans, old Carson Wentz. Randy I had to get that in for Randy.
Jesus is an amazing nickname.
That is Randy's guy, the old Carson Wentz out of North Dakota State. So should be interesting one way or the other. Thank you all tuning in, watching Chiefs Kingdom, and we will see you guys on the next episode of The Kingdom Says.